Okay, so this is the second episode of Featured Founders, brought to you by McGill Students for You and Women, where we basically highlight amazing female founders who are basically changing the world. So, who I have today with us is Danielle Boyer, and she's the founder of the STEM Connection. So, welcome. Basically just briefly introduce yourself, maybe where you study. You can repeat your name, the organization that you founded.
So my name is Danielle Boyer, and I'm from Troy, Michigan in the United States. And my work focuses around bringing accessible, affordable, and diverse science, technology, engineering, art, and math education to youth, specifically Indigenous youth like myself. I'm Ojibwe. And I do that through my organization, the STEAM Connection, where we bring accessible and affordable resources to kids. And I love it so much. I'm going to talk more about that in a minute. But right now I'm studying electrical engineering and mechanical engineering. It's a lot. And I am taking some time off of school to focus on a neurodevelopmental disabilities fellowship at the University of Vermont to better help my students learn. And that's been really cool.
Wow. Oh my goodness. That's amazing. So just to follow up, so if you can speak a little bit more about the STEM Connection. So if someone were to ask you, if they had no idea what it was, what would you how would you explain your organization to them and its mission?
Yeah, so the STEAM Connection is a nonprofit that I founded in January of 2019, which feels forever ago right now. It's so weird. But basically what we do is we create accessible, diverse, and affordable science, tech, engineering, art, and math educational resources for youth, by youth. And our goal is to kind of build up youth in their, I call them STEAM superpowers and super skills, and find their unique talents and skills through robotics or electrical engineering, through the arts, and be able to pursue a career in a future that they want. And I do it mostly through robotics. I actually have one right here. This is our biggest project. Its name is Every Kid Gets a Robot, and it's a robot that costs less than $20 and goes to kids for free. I invented it when I first started my organization, and I've sent out almost 5,000 robots for free since then. And I also have a virtual platform where educators can make their own robots for free too. And it's so much fun. I get to teach sustainable design, because this part here is biodegradable. I get to teach electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, and computer science, all mixed into one. And that's like my favorite thing that I get to do every single day, is make these little foods.
Oh my goodness, I'm speechless. Like I usually have a lot to say, but that's amazing. Oh my goodness.
Thank you.
So I guess this next question fits right in. So, what role do you believe STEAM Connection to play in the lives of the children that you mentor and you teach?
So a lot of people, when they hear about my work, they think that my goal is to create future scientists and engineers, when that actually is not my goal at all. My goal is for kids to be able to see the role that STEAM plays in our everyday lives, from the math that we see around us, the arts that we see around us, and being able to be curious about the world, but also being able to answer those questions and apply that to our future lives. I know even just in the different programs I'm a part of, my engineering skills come up all the time. I wouldn't be able to help students if I didn't have those engineering skills that I had, and if I didn't have those tech skills that I had. And I want to empower other kids to be able to solve problems and to innovate for the world around them. So that's the role that I see the STEAM Connection having. And I do that through the robots. I teach classes. I've written 5 books. And so I use those as kind of a vehicle. I call my robot a vehicle, and to bring STEAM to kids. And it has been really cool. I've had so many great opportunities to work with kids from all around the world, especially North America. And it's just really special to know that the robots are making a difference. And they've gone to more countries and more places than I have been, which is like the weirdest thing in the world, like your robots have traveled farther than you. I remember I first Googled Every Kid Gets a Robot in 2019, I think, and it was being used in a coding competition. And I had absolutely no idea. Like, I had supplied the 3D printed parts, but I did not know that it was being used for that by a nonprofit. And so it's really crazy to see the robot just moving, forward.
Sorry, Did you say you've written 5 books?
Yeah, so I wrote 5 books and 1 activity book in STEAM, and they focus around increasing diversity in STEAM, because so many kids, when you Google like activity sheets or pictures or prints of people in like STEM, STEAM, etc., you see a bunch of old white male scientists and engineers, and that's just not the reality for many of us. And so I wanted kids to be able to see characters that look like themselves. And so I started drawing characters ranging from different backgrounds, different religions. When I would do children's hospital visits before the pandemic, we also had like a ton of characters where the students could see themselves in it. So yeah, I wanted that to be kind of a central focus of mine, because I think literature is so important and so many kids do not see themselves represented. I can't remember the exact percentages off the top of my head, but I think around in 2018, according to the University of Wisconsin-Madison, around 75% of characters in children's books in the United States were white and animals and slash other. And that didn't include any minority characters whatsoever. So that leaves a very small percentage for, you know, a huge percentage of North America. So I wanted to help tackle that, but there's a lot more to be done.
Wow. Once again, I usually never speechless, and you're amazing.
Oh, thank you.
So my next question actually fits into representation. So as an Indigenous woman, and just the fact as a woman, there's not a lot of representation in your field, and as an Indigenous woman, there's even less.
Yeah.
So what does positive representation mean to you?
So it means many different things. I think that's a very broad question, but I'm going to kind of go specifically into my industry and the role that individuals and businesses can play in that. I really want people to put their money and their support where their mouth is. A lot of organizations and a lot of individuals say that they support Indigenous peoples, but when the time comes to actually support us, they don't. For example, one of my favorite nonprofits in the entire world is the American Indian Science and Engineering Society, and they're throughout North America, and the work that they do is just so amazing. They really make me feel like at home in the beautiful intertribal community that they are. But I see a lot of organizations say they support Native peoples, and they'll be in the same like city as an event is being put on, but they won't be there as a sponsor. They won't even attend. They won't even send a representative. And I feel like these organizations need to be aware of what's going on around them and support the organizations putting in the work to be able to help Native peoples. Because you can't do it alone. You can't reach communities if you don't have a connection there. You need to build that connection. And I also want to see organizations work to diversify the Indigenous peoples that they work with. I want to see them work with people from different nations. I want to see them work with people in different careers. I want them to bring in people who are at tribal colleges, who are at community colleges. I think we kind of create a limiter of like, everyone needs this amount of education if we're going to work with them. We need this amount of whatever. And that's a huge limiting factor of bringing in brilliant minds. And I want to see these companies bring in Indigenous peoples who all look different, because we all do, right? A lot of us are mixed. We all look very different from different backgrounds. I want to see more Afro-Indigenous representation specifically, because I see that not happen like anywhere. And I feel it's the bare minimum to kind of bring in and diversify the spaces around these organizations and around people. And I think it starts with who you're friends with, who you're following online, who you support, where you buy clothes from, where you can buy jewelry from, thinking about how can I support beyond just words. How can I support with my money? How can I support with my time? How can I support as a role if I work in an organization or something like that? And I've literally had articles that I've written for companies be completely edited afterward about Indigenous issues. And that is really horrible to see your statistics and your information completely like just dismantled and published without your consent as like inaccurate, right? And a lot of organizations do this so that they don't appear controversial. But these are realities that we live with every single day. And I want to see organizations, if they want to work with us, they have to work with us, you know, not completely censor us and take the meaning out of our words. Or just find completely white passing natives for all of the work that they're doing, because that's not fair either. So yeah, there's a lot of progress to be done, but I think it begins by looking around you and seeing, do I know any Indigenous peoples? And if I don't, why not? So, yeah.
No, that was powerful. Thank you. So on that note, when Indigenous children read it about your story, read your books,
Mhm.
get to know you, what is one thing you hope they take away from your journey?
So when I started my work, I didn't really think I had the power to make a difference. I've been doing this since I was 10 years old. I was homeschooled for most of my life, and I started out by teaching an animal science class when I was 10 at my homeschool group. And I remember I saw animal puppets one day, and I noticed there weren't a lot of like STEAM classes at our group. And I had asked my mom, what if I taught a science class? She's like, dude, you're 10 years old. What are you talking about? Um, but I pushed forward. But for the longest time, I didn't feel like I could make a difference at all. You don't, when you're young, and even now, you don't see the impact of the students' lives. Like, you don't see how you're affecting them really, because a lot of them haven't gone to university even now, right? I was 10 and they were in kindergarten, so a lot of them are just, they're still really young.
Mhm.
And so I didn't see that impact, and I didn't think that I could enact change. And that happened for a really long time afterward. When I joined my first robotics team, my second robotics team, I really thought that I couldn't do what I loved and that I couldn't, make change. But that changed when one of my students, she's Indigenous, she told me that I was the first Native person she'd seen in robotics, and that it made her want to do it too. And I was kind of like, I was just appalled because I didn't think that I was able to make that change. I didn't think that a student would see me that way and see me as kind of a vehicle to them pursuing what they also love. And so I was just really shocked, and I was literally, when it was happening, I was like crying and stuff. I didn't know how to react, but it made me realize that the work that I'm doing is important, and that students can see themselves in the work that I'm doing, and they can see themselves creating change in innovative ways, many different ways, from communication to, like, public speaking, whether it be writing, engineering. There's so many different ways of changing the world around us. And knowing that I could help kind of put a step in the right direction was just really powerful. And I hope to do that for even more students. But I just think it's a really beautiful thing to know, like, firsthand from the students, that you're helping them do what they want to do. Yeah.
Wow. So another question, kind of thinking in the future. So in 5 years, where do you see the STEAM connection, and where do you see yourself?
That's a really hard question, to be honest. I have everything specced out for my organization, down to the business plan, right? Like, I see us going in the direction of opening college chapters and opening a location where students can learn in person. And I see us moving in the direction of bringing more accessible resources to kids all around the world. And right now we're working on a strong emphasis of entrepreneurship opportunities, as well as new inventions I'm cooking up. So I'm really excited about that. Can't say a lot about it, but it's focused around environmentally sustainable efforts, because I think that's really important. I don't want my robots to last longer in the world than I do. I think that would be a really sad thing. As for me, I honestly have no idea. I I have this weird thing where I used to see myself kind of from the perspective of, I have a career goal, and then everything I'm doing is kind of backing that up. But I've changed my thinking since then to, what are my goals to be able to help others, and what can I do to help back that up? And ever since I've done that, my journey has been completely insane and super unpredictable. A lot of things have happened that I didn't ever expect to happen. um, I kind of go with the flow now, and I say, and I have what I call buckets, to be able to help others. And like, I want to be a STEAM role model. I want to create accessible content, and everything I do has to fall within those buckets for my work. And as I've gone in time, more and more had just gone into those buckets, which has been really, really cool. So I see myself furthering those goals, and I see myself also finishing school, hopefully sooner than later. It's a lot. And I also see myself moving into the direction of media and robotics. I would love to be able to bring robotic design to more students. I think that would be so, so fun. I call myself a Dr. Doofenshmirtz of robots. So I would like to kind of fulfill that and bring more inventions to kids. I have a very chaotic design personality. I'm always designing like things to scare people with and just weird things. So that's why I kind of see myself going in the direction of how can I build more and how can I involve students in that process. But yeah, it's a hard question because honestly, I have absolutely no idea where I'll be. Hopefully somewhere cool.
I think it's really interesting you say that though, about how before you did everything, like you had a goal, a career goal, and everything you did was to back up that career goal.
Mm-hmm.
I think most students have that same viewpoint, that every club they join is for their resume or their
Right.
career. It's not really what they really want to do. I think
Mm-hmm.
once you make that differentiation about what your real passions are, then what your career goals are, I think you live a happier life.
I totally agree. And it can be really hard sometimes because I remember when I was starting out in public school, it's a super competitive school academically, and everyone like had started a nonprofit and done a ton of things, and very, very resume oriented, very achievement oriented. If you didn't get a perfect score on your SAT, everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, you're stupid," right? That was a very difficult environment to kind of live in for a few years, and I struggled so much. And I remember I was just running around doing everything. I was in theater. I did DECA, which stands for the Distributive Education Clubs of America, or something like that. It's like a business club. And I was doing just a ton of things, and I realized that none of them fulfilled the goals that I actually had, and they didn't have any meaning. And I learned a lot in the process, but I mostly learned that I should be working towards things that I love to do, or I should be working towards fun hobbies. You know, it's okay to be in a club just because you want to be. And it might not ever end up on your resume, but who cares? It's okay to have, if you have the free time to take that time to make friends and do cool things, especially I think in like the arts, if that's not the degree someone's in, at least for me. But it can be really hard sometimes to take that step and say, I don't need to do everything. I just need to put my time towards what matters. And when you do that, people do notice. And it shows that you're not doing what I call a snowball effect of joining a lot of clubs, doing very little, and just doing on the surface a lot of things. When you actually care about something and when you actually put the effort towards it, even though it seems like less than someone else, it still stands strong to the people around you and to your communities that you're helping. So I think that's an important thing to keep in mind. But to do that, you definitely need a strong support system and you need the ability to do that. So I always say, like, spam people online, ask questions. Everything's virtual. Totally message people, DM them, reach out on LinkedIn. If you need help, if you need a mentor, ask for it because people will help.
Yeah. And on the note of impact, so
Mm-hmm.
your organization, the STEAM Connection, seems very impact oriented. So
Mm-hmm.
how do you measure impact of your organization? Is it like, how do you quantify the impact you have on others?
So I have many different ways of kind of assessing how effective my solutions are. And I try to go beyond just the numbers of robots I've sent out or the number of books that I've sent out, because that's not proving that my solutions are actually effective. It's just proving that I've given a lot of things away, right? So what I try to do is have a focus around what are my students learning and why, and how can I better kind of help my students learn. And in kind of that journey, I started implementing an assessment for kids to take before and after they used my robots, so that they could assess their skills and their confidence in using the skills, and like reading a wiring diagram, coding, working on different software that went along with my curriculum. And I saw a huge skyrocket in the children's confidence and in their abilities. So I do it written and verbal, because a lot of the kids I work with can't necessarily read or write. So I wanted to create a way for the kids to be able to communicate their learning nonetheless. And I think the best power of robots is the ability to use kind of like a project-based solution, and to be able to finish something and have it in your hands, right? Like to be able to have something starting in a bunch of pieces, and then when you're done, it moves.
Mhm.
So that is kind of the goal, is for students to be able to actualize their ideas. And that's why I teach a lot of things in like computer aided design or 3D modeling, because kids can design something on their computer and we can print it out and see it afterwards. And I'm more interested in the kids' emotional intelligence. I'm more interested in the kids' confidence in their abilities than I am ever in the skills that they're gaining. But I also know for things like grants and stuff, you do need to prove what you're doing is working, right?
Mhm.
Beyond just emotional intelligence. A lot of them don't care about that. But I do care about both. And the assessment has been really great. But I would say the biggest way that I measure impact is seeing what my students are doing with the skills that they learned after they leave my classroom, and seeing the initiatives that my students are starting. I've had students start their own nonprofits. I've had students invent their own robots. I've had students go on and start clubs, write books. My mentee, Vinia, and I just started a podcast together. Well, last year. Time is flying, but we started a podcast together, and she's 13 years old, which is insane. And it's on environmental innovation. And she started a science wing at her school when she was younger as well. So the impact is, I call it like living impact, to know that my students are using the skills that they see around them and that they're learning through my classes and through the robots, and are being able to apply it in the way of helping others. So that's, to me, the biggest measure of impact is like, what are they doing now?
Mhm. It sounds to me like you embody the true meaning of leadership, because to me, leaders are those who build up other leaders, and
Mhm.
you've just created this whole community of this next generation of global shakers that are going to change the world. So that's amazing.
That's the goal. That's the goal. And I call it paying it forward. I mentor many youth robotics teams, and my goal is to help create mentors from the teams that I serve. And that actually has happened. A lot of the kids that I once mentored have gone on and started their own teams, or they mentor other kids now. And to see that continuous effect is just so cool, because a lot of them are significantly younger than I am. I mean, I'm 20. So it's just really, really cool. It's special. I have a connection with my students because I'm very close to their age, I think. And so I know kind of from an educational perspective where they're coming from, also from like a mental health perspective too, because I really do care about that. And I myself have a lot of mental health struggles. So I want to make sure that my students are, that they know that they can come to me if they need anything, or if they need anyone to talk to. So yeah, that has been a very interesting journey. And I like the ability to be a little bit chaotic and crazy in my in my designs and stuff. And my students totally push me toward that too. They're like, we can cut open Beanie Babies and put servo motors in them to make animatronics. I'm like, yes, we can. So it's a lot of fun. A little crazy, but a lot of fun.
So I have to look at my list for this because you have a lot of awards. So
Mhm.
you're the recipient of several impressive awards, including the People's Girls Changing the World and the L'Oreal Paris Woman of Worth, and that's just two out of the several that I can find. So looking back to when you were younger, is this the path that you saw for yourself, or you imagined for yourself, rather?
From an award perspective, no. When I was homeschooled, there was no awards or anything. So it's really cool to win them now, because I never had like trophies or anything. Because I was homeschooled, right? There was like none of that, unless you're in sports, and I wasn't in sports, so I didn't ever see any of that. Most of my awards, I was nominated by my students. So often at the beginning of the process, I had no clue what's happening. And I just think it's really cool, because I see it as a great networking opportunity to be able to connect with a lot of people who are like-minded in the service community and in the nonprofit community. It's just really, really special. I've met so many people, especially who are my age and who are now close friends, because of the different awards I've been a part of. And I get to involve my students too. Like I was in an NBC Special, and my student, Vinia, got to be in it with me, which was so, so cool. So yeah, from a younger perspective, I didn't know anything like that was possible. I see it as the ability to kind of increase my platform to be able to help more people. I honestly, when I was younger, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I knew I was really interested in like science and tech, but I heard my whole life like girls aren't meant to be engineers, and that kind of sentiment stayed true for a really, really long time. When I got to high school and I joined a robotics team, I was met with so much hostility. Like, it was absolutely insane. They didn't want me to be there. They made that obvious. And it escalated to a point of it being like a very unsafe environment. And I still have issues today of like stalking and things. And all for just wanting to put on community events and for wanting to learn engineering. And that was so discouraging, you know, like I think I was like 15. And so it was really hard to hear that constantly from people my age, especially from a new school where I didn't really know anyone. So I ended up joining another robotics team and the same thing happened again. I was hoping it would be different. It wasn't different. Everyone had known each other. A lot of them were family friends. A lot of them had known each other their whole lives. And I was jumping in my senior year, and I was the only girl upperclassman, and that was so rough. I had just come from the other team too, so I was very like fearful in general, and I really didn't know how to navigate everything. I was starting a ton of initiatives as well, and I was just I was kind of lost at that point because I was like, I'm definitely going to be pursuing business or something. It's still not meant for me, and I didn't even see myself as an inventor until the beginning of last year. So even a year after I had invented my first robot, and after I had invented a second, I still didn't see myself as a designer. I didn't see myself as an entrepreneur. I didn't see myself as any of that based off of what other people told me. And a huge thing in starting my organization was I didn't want other kids to feel that way. Because when you're in it, it is the worst feeling in the world. You walk into a room knowing people are talking badly about you, that people are saying that you don't know what you're doing. It's like, we need the ability to learn. Engineering can be so hostile. There's this pressure and this kind of competitive spirit of guys being like, if you don't know everything, then you're just stupid, or you don't know what you're talking about and you're a faker. And even at conferences and stuff, it is so toxic and it happens all the time. I had to start in lectures I give, I had to start not allowing questions until the end. And I had to do it through like chat boxes, or I had to do it in a way where people couldn't ask in person, because a lot of their questions were so hostile or so overly technical to a point of where there's no way I could have answered them without like 8 years of engineering school, right? So that kind of hostile community is what pushed me to start my own organization as well. And I definitely, when I was younger, didn't see myself making something out of that pain. You know, I didn't see myself using what had hurt me to do something better with that. I just see the awards as a cool bonus. I got to donate $10,000 to the American Indian Science and Engineering Society from L'Oreal Paris. And they were like, what do you want to do with your award money? And I'm like, can I donate it? You know, like, can I donate it to somebody else? And so I sent it to ACES, and that was really, really special. I actually have a project coming out with them on Monday, I think. So I'm excited. I can't talk about it, but I'm really, really, really happy about it. But the question was like, what makes you feel like a woman of worth? And the answer was 100% like within the ACES community. So yeah, that's what kind of pushed me in that direction. And I've been able to have cool effects. I call it like the ripple effects, paying it forward on those around me that I never thought was possible before. So yeah, it just, I say using that pain, using it towards something good. And as I said before, when you stay true to your mission and your goals, people do notice. Like my students noticed, and my community noticed, and the people judging the awards noticed. And often they notice without me even knowing they did. And so I say, don't be two people, be one person, in the sense of like, I think a lot of us have like our professional personality and our everyday personality, and they're very, very different people. But you need to be 100% behind what you're doing. And, some days are better than others, but you definitely need to stay true to yourself and stay true to your mission, and keep that energy forward in everything that you're doing. Because people notice even what you don't say. They notice how you act and those around you. They notice who you help and who you don't. They even notice who you follow on social media, which politicians you support. So it's important to really have your values shown in everything that you do. So yeah, it can be hard, but it's a learning process for all of us.
Wow, I think it's so unfortunate you were met with that hostility. Like I was in a robotics team for like 6 years, and I started off with Lego robotics, and
I love the Lego bots. They're so cute.
and I was but I went to an all-girls school, so it was an all-girls team. And you
Hmm.
never really like noticed like any hostility until we started going to competitions.
Yeah.
So I feel like if I were in an environment where I was like the only girl, I feel like I don't know how I would be able to prosper. So it's amazing that you took that pain and made into something that you can call your own.
Yeah, what's interesting is my student who I started the podcast with, Vinia, she's on an all-girls team that I mentor, a middle school first tech challenge team. And she said the exact same thing of she really felt like she had the ability to kind of learn and to thrive in that direction. But as soon as she started going to competitions, the guys would be like, oh, you're an all-girls team, you're not serious, you don't know what you're doing. They would say a lot of hostile things in general, like, oh my gosh, you're using a Blockly to code, I'm using this code. Like, you don't know what you're doing. You're not serious. And she's 13, and she's heard that from not only her peers, but also mentors as well. And that should never, ever, ever happen. From an educator perspective, we have a responsibility to create a safe learning environment for our students. And if we can't provide that, we should not be teaching anybody, And so it's hard to know that competition environment can be such a challenge. It was for me as well. I remember even at the first robotics championships, I would give lectures, and the people from my old team would attend my lectures to disrupt them, and they would steal some of the stuff that I had made and brought. And they always said they didn't do it, but they'd come in loud, in and out, in and out. And those were the first lectures I had ever given. And to have that happen just so often, I even found my old coach like sitting outside one of my lecture rooms, and it was so nerve-wracking, honestly. I did not know how to navigate it at all. And to know that people had so much hostility for the fact that I left the team after they had been harassing me for such a long time too, it was really, really hard, especially because I still had to go to school with these people, and that was not fun at all. But yeah, I just see it towards when we see this and we see how people treat others, we can advocate for change in that sector, because a lot of the people running these competitions are not women. They don't know. They honestly don't. And so being able to have that conversation like, hey, this is a lot of kids' experience and we need to do something about it is important, especially as a lot of the competitions are gaining more momentum and a lot more funding. If we need to use some of that funding towards training a lot of the mentors, especially on anti-racism training, we need to make sure that they know how to work with the kids they're working with. I mean, our coach at my second team, he was a white man, and all of the students were students of color. So he didn't put the work in at all to make sure that the kids had the resources that they needed to thrive. I remember a lot of the students don't eat beef, and he would take us to like steak places and stuff. I was like, dude, you've got to be kidding me. It's just the bare minimum in my mind. But yeah, we really need to focus on the educator's role in this as well, because when us educators, we set an example for our students. And if we show kids that it's okay to treat others as less than, and we don't value the students' cultures and backgrounds and their unique learning abilities and everything, we're not supporting the student, and we're going to make it a worse environment. And I see that through every organization that I work with. You really need to support at every level. But yeah, that's kind of my education tangent.
It's okay. It was really insightful. So kind of the final question, and this is something that I think everyone can take away from. So as a student and a female founder with like various responsibilities and then responsibilities outside of the organization and your school, how do you prevent burnout? And then a follow-up question to be, how do you maintain the drive you have for your endeavors amid this like quarantine fatigue?
Those are both really excellent questions and hard ones to answer. The maintaining the drive to me is not the hard part, because I see the effects of what I'm doing on my community, and I know that it's important for me to continue. But what does hold me back a lot is the burnout, and is a lot of my mental health challenges. I have depression, I have anxiety, I have ADHD, and I have complex post-traumatic stress disorder. So all of those are kind of like huge burdens that are really difficult to deal with on a day-to-day basis. I don't think people realize a lot that I struggle getting out of bed every morning. I struggle being able to answer emails and to talk to friends and to get kind of out of my little shell. Struggle to exercise. A lot of stuff with depression too is you just kind of you have a hard time taking care of yourself. And so when you don't take care of yourself, it lessens your ability to help others. And I kind of have to hold myself accountable in the way of like, okay, where am I at? Where do I want to go? What's holding me back? And like, do I need a therapy session this week? Do I need to talk to friends this week? What can I do to kind of help myself and support myself? Because I think there's this mentality of like, you need to work until you're dead type of thing. And that should not be the reality at all. We value our kind of success and achievements based on our output, but it should be the impacts that we're having on our community, and the two are not the same thing. We can't be fully present and we can't fully bring ourselves to others if we aren't fully present with ourselves and we aren't taking care of ourselves. So for me, it's even just sometimes remembering to eat. It's sometimes remembering to wake up before a certain time. I had this really bad point in January where I wasn't waking up until 5 p.m. every single day. And so I wasn't seeing any sun or anything. And so that was a really, really bad hit on my depression, especially. So I also have friends who can hold me accountable and can say, hey, you don't seem like you're doing too good. Make sure you eat today. Make sure you go on a run today. Exercising has been like one of the biggest saviors for me. Talking to friends who have similar challenges as me has been good. Therapy has been really good. Not everyone has the opportunity for therapy. So basically making sure to talk to friends if you can't talk to a therapist is important too. And spread it out a little bit. Don't just share and talk with one friend. Try to talk to multiple people because I think that's really important to make sure that we don't, as my mom said, put all your eggs in one basket, spread it out a little bit. Sometimes we need to make sure that we are sharing different issues with different people, and because they have mental health concerns too. And it can be hard to always be able to help everyone all the time. So spread it out. So yeah, all of those things have been good, but it's a huge learning process, and it's really, really hard. And it's hard advocating for positive mental health too, when sometimes you feel like a hypocrite about it. Because it's like, oh my gosh, today I didn't wake up until 1 p.m. You know, like it's a little rough. So what I try to remind myself is that we really do live by example, but part of what makes us relatable to students and makes us relatable to others is the fact that we're human and that we're not perfect. Online, we see all these like amazing examples of mental health and like, oh, today I did this, and this, and here's suggestions for it to be perfect. It's not perfect at all. It could be really, really horrible. So it's just reminding yourself too, like, do you need to get off your screens? Do you need to talk to people? Do you need to call someone? Because in person is not as much of an option for a lot of people now. So it's just thinking about that. And when you take care of yourself, you're able to do more. And for me, I have more energy. I have more interest in the things that I love to do. When I'm more like feeling like in a depressive episode or something, I 100% like my work shows that. And so I have to know when to take the day off and watch a ton of horror movies, you know, like that's my jam. So yeah, it's being able to kind of know yourself, discover yourself. I suggest like journaling and exercising, 100% exercising. So yeah, it's a journey though, and everyone is very different. But yeah, and also finding people who do not diminish your struggles. Because everyone has different challenges, right? And I remember when I first met with friends a few years ago, they were like, you don't have depression, you know, because you do this. And it's like, no, it all looks very different for us. I happen to do a lot of things, but that does not mean that I don't have these challenges. And you don't see me every single day. You don't see what I have to battle with. You don't see, you know, you don't have the perspective my family has. So I think that's important to keep in mind, is find people who are like, your struggles are valid and I know where you're coming from. Or if they can't know where you're coming from, they have some empathy for you. But yeah, I think those are all really important things to keep in mind.
I totally agree. I one of my favorite quotes is surround yourself with people that feel like sunshine.
I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah. So if you're in like a really bad mood and you're always surrounding yourself with people that are in a bad mood, then how are you going to get better? And then how can you help them get better, right?
Yeah, I agree.
So thank you so much, Danielle, for joining us and sharing your experiences and telling us about the STEAM connection. We're going to make sure to put some information about and like your socials, the STEAM connection socials and our captions. But once again, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I had a lot of fun. I always love sharing my perspective as a founder, especially with others who relate or who want to go in the same direction. I think that's really cool. If you want to learn more about my work, you can go to my website at www.steamconnection.org. And you can learn how you can volunteer, get involved, bring robots to your community, whether it be for your organization or to your younger siblings. Be sure to check it out. And you can always reach out if you have questions in general. I'm always hopping on my email, hopping in my DMs if you want to talk or chat about your journey in founding things or wanting to found things. So yeah, be sure to check it out.